what is the one insight or message you hope attendees took away from your session at the Gladiator Summit?
Every time I do an event, I want people to walk away with, if they never saw me again, that this is one thing that I can do. And if I were to say this one thing that I hope that people got out of it was that influence is a science and it can be learned. And when you realize that the way we speak, it's not just about how we speak, but there's a certain sequence to things that if we design our story first before we give a message, we realize that the story is actually impacting the message. All too often people say, you got to get to the point. You got to get right to the point. Well, an example would be if somebody said, hey, can you come to the party? And let's say I wanted to get to the point and I provided no frame, I would say no. And immediately you feel like, it could be interpreted as being rude, condescending, and it didn't help the relationship. But if I added something right before I gave the answer, it changes everything. So, hey, can you come to the party? And I say, unfortunately, no. And now they know that my meaning was that I wanted to, but I can't. And so now it preserves the relationship. That happens in all aspects of life. If they say, where do you work? And you say, I'm a used car salesman. Immediately they might have a negative connotation to that, or might think you might be a liar, a cheater, somebody who's slimy, whatever it is. There's a negative history that they're not going to associate to that profession because you didn't provide a frame or context. And so we need to understand how we're communicating, the sequence, and how we do that. And a simple way to do that is to really analyze your own life and your own story. Everything that you do right now is actually comes from something that happened to you early on. And so really most of our life is designed living out our personal values. And our personal values are actually formulated in the brain between ages of 9 and 13. And if you go back right now, if you think to yourself that you value, let's say, hard work, and somebody says to you, or you want to know why you value hard work, well, go back to what happened between ages 9 and 13. And so many people grow up maybe on a farm, or their parents did something, or maybe their parents didn't work hard. That actually influences us as well. We have positive influences that we call lighthouses, negative influences that we call foghorns. Those are the warning signs. So maybe you had parents that were lazy and didn't do anything and didn't amount to much, and you realized that you didn't want to be that way, so you decided to work hard. Or maybe you had parents that worked really hard and you wanted to honor them. And so when you tell the story of saying, I grew up as a kid and I remember waking up at 4 a.m. and my parents would always have me do X, Y, and Z. And then all of a sudden now when I got into college, I took that same work ethic and did really well in school. And so now as insert your profession, I've always taken hard work as the most important thing. And so now we see that in the context of the full story. So the best thing you can do is write down 4 words that are your values. Maybe it's hard work, empathy, honesty, whatever those are. And then ask yourself, between the ages of 9 and 13, who were the people that were around? Put a name to it and then ask yourself, were they a positive lighthouse or maybe they're negative foghorn? And by the way, just because they're a foghorn doesn't mean they're bad people. I was a foghorn to my kids and my mother was a foghorn to me. That doesn't mean that I don't love them. It just means that we influence people in many ways. But analyze what that story was and then tell a story on that. And you'll find that story starts to give you insights as to that your life actually was more purposeful than you think. And it's the story that will actually relate to people. So go on that little journey and have fun with it.
You speak about 9 to 13 being the formative years, and that basically setting the values you have for life. So you're going through a lot of suffering during that time. You also mentioned reframing the word suffering and passion. Can you tell us your thoughts on that?
Whenever people go through an event or they go to see a speaker, you read a book, you get excited about the changes you want to make. I think the piece that we forget is that to make those changes, it's not going to be easy. And so I want to tell you a little story. My son asked me, what's the meaning of life, Dad? And I asked him, what do you think it is? And he said, well, isn't it to be happy? And my response to him was, I said, well, if you think the meaning of life is to be happy, my son, you're going to be sorely disappointed because most of life isn't happy. Most of life is suffering and sacrifice. And he said, Dad, isn't that kind of dark? And I said, no, I think it's actually beautiful because we don't understand suffering. We think suffering is this negative thing. Now, there is an unnecessary suffering. There are people suffering in the world, but when you go to the gym, you actually suffer. You suffer pushing yourself so that you have a better life afterwards. You look healthier, you lose weight, and you feel in shape. When you go to school, you suffer over the work to study and to learn. And all of those things, whether you practice being a speaker or whether you practice in business, there's always a component of suffering before the end where the payoff is at. And that whole journey, and what's really fascinating is that another word that's one of my favorite words is the word passion. But when you look at the root of the word passion, it means to suffer for something. And so then when you go through and you have a passion for your business, if you're watching this, you might be that entrepreneur that's suffering over your business, staying up late, getting up early. Maybe you have two jobs and you want to do that side hustle. All of it suffering for something. And then when you think about the word compassion, compassion is to suffer with someone. And so we've misunderstood the real meaning of the word suffering. In fact, back in the 13th century, suffering was given to the martyrs, people that died for a cause. And so and then when in the 16th century, we started thinking it was about this happy pursuit of something. It is, and it can be very meaningful, but suffering, sacrifice, purpose, and passion all have a very close piece. And if you're an entrepreneur and you're in this business, you know exactly what it is that I'm talking about. And what I hope is you realize that the suffering that you're having over your business is actually suffering for something, maybe for the betterment of your family, maybe it's for the betterment of your customers, or the betterment of the world in some way, shape, or form. So remember, keep practicing, keep pushing yourself, and I promise you everything will get better, because when we realize we're suffering for something, it becomes purposeful. And another easy way to think about it is the story of Noah. It's a story that's been told in many biblical texts from all the different religions. And basically, somebody was told, hey, there's something bad coming. But what was crazy is that he was told this while there were clear skies. And so part of the job of an entrepreneur is to, even when there are clear skies and we don't see something that's happening, we have to have the foresight to plan ahead. And he had a choice. Did he want to use the easy life and enjoy the clear skies, or did he want to suffer and to build something that wasn't even for himself? He wanted to build something that was for other people. And so one of the things that we say is, in life, you'll be one of two people. And sometimes we're both. You're either the one who built the ark when the floods of life come so you can help people, or you're the one that needs a ride. Now, I'll tell you this, it's not a bad thing to need a ride. There are a lot of us out there that need help. If you're the one that needs a ride, you need to reach out to those that have the ark, that proverbial ark. Maybe their ark is that they read all the books and they have knowledge for you. Maybe they run a good business and they can help you with writing a check. Or maybe they just have knowledge and they can reach out and give you a hug when you need one. Whatever your arc is, you have to be the one that builds something so that you can be of service to other people, which goes back to, what is the meaning of life? I don't think it's to be happy. I think it's to be of utility, to be of use to the world. So when someone else is suffering, someone else needs help, you have something to offer. So whether you're somebody who needs a ride, I need you to reach out and ask for help. If you're the one who has built the ark, then I need you to see who else in this world that you can help.
How do you think platforms like the Gladiator Summit foster connections and collaborations that empower individuals, young professionals, entrepreneurs across the Middle East?
One of the most powerful things about a platform or an event like the Gladiator Summit is that it puts you in the room with other people that are like-minded and people that are not like you, that will foster different conversations and different kinds of thinking. The thing is that innovation, new ideas, they don't come from people who think like you. They come from people who don't think like you. They might challenge your current thinking. And so one of the most important things you can do in life is surround yourself with the best people. It's always been known that we are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. If you spend time with the 5 people that maybe have bad relationships, guess what? You're probably going to have bad relationships. If you spend time with people that make less money than you, most likely you will start making less money. But it also works if you spend time with people that make more money than you do. Guess what? You're going to learn through those conversations how to make more money. And so what you should be searching for, what are the rooms that you can get involved with? What are the rooms that are going to challenge your current thinking? What are the rooms that you're going to have conversations where, like today, I was there and they say, hey, do you want to do an interview? Had I not been in the room, I wouldn't be talking to you here today. And so whatever you have to do, find the rooms that you need to be in and constantly go out there and seek information and add value when you can. Take notes every time you can and make sure that you're being challenged in your current thinking. So find the room anytime you can and see what happens.